Okay, so this episode of Attack on Titan makes it apparently clear that we're definitely sticking with this new cast of characters at least for a little while. Obviously, we will see our main characters at some point. I don't know when, but there is good and bad with this. Okay. So, the good is that it is humanizing the villains, so to speak, and showing us that, for one, there's other people outside the walls that have these abilities to turn into Titans, or I should say, kind of shows that they're being utilized in ways that our characters kind of utilized Eren, to kind of fight for their own self-preservation. But it also shows that, hey, Reiner and them weren't just dickheads that were traitors to humanity. They're there because they feel like what they're doing is the only way to save their people, and that what they're doing is right. So it really gives you that moral dilemma. It's like, well, damn, we hate these people, but at the same time, they're kind of only doing what they need to do to survive. It's, at the end of the day, it's the fucking Marlians that are the real pieces of shit that are pulling the strings here. So yeah, but the bad is that we go back to, was it season 2? I want to say it was, that maybe, I don't think it was season 3, was it? Whichever season had the, oh, maybe it was season 2, was a lot of the political insight, a lot of the human versus human aspect that people really hated, which ironically was actually my favorite season of Attack on Titan, to be honest with you. Freaking loved it. That was hands down my favorite season of Attack on Titan. But a lot of people did not like it because they're like, hey, this is Attack on Human. I came for Attack on Titan. There was a lot of backlash and such with it. So, focusing so much on this human element again could certainly backfire. Having read the manga, I know what happens with the outcome of the Tiber speech that they mention is going to happen. The family that holds the Warhammer Titan's power. And while it is exciting, it's not exactly going to be Attack on Titan. It's still going to be a lot more Attack on Human for a little while. Pretty much until the damn near end. Before we actually get back to the bread and butter of Attack on Titan. And it's going to be interesting to see how people really pick up on that and how they react to it. But yeah, that's the bad of it. But maybe at this point people kind of have the wherewithal to kind of say, hey, it's humanizing the villains, it's giving us a reason to care for both sides, and it's showing us that there's common ground between the people that betrayed us and our main characters for another enemy. And that maybe somehow they will find a common cause and a reason to work together, if you will. Because we see, when it was mentioned the Tiber Rebellion, or not the Tiber Rebellion, but the Tiber family speech coming up, we see that Zeke is working with the military dogs, that's what I'm calling them, and had them spying on them in the other room, because Zeke's a piece of garbage. And manga readers really know how much of a piece of garbage he is. So yeah. He's even tricking his own people. And Reiner, you can tell Reiner knows something's up, but the rest of them aren't really. They're just kind of buying into Zeke's bullshit. that he's like, hey, we need to launch another attack on the island, even though it didn't work and we lost almost all of our resources last time. It'll work this time. He's like, yeah, come on, this guy's totally planning something. Why else would he want to waste the resources going back to the island of devils? And there was a scene where Reiner is sitting with his parents, and before I jump ahead of my time, we actually got to see a lot of these characters reunite with their family and interact with them and stuff, and it really drives home that fact that, hey, these are still human beings. They are doing what they think is right. They're doing what they need to do in order to survive. Love them or hate them, they're still people. And Zeke's there with his grandparents, which we know what and all happened with that. Yeah. I need to say more. But back to what I was saying, we see Reiner there with his parents and Gabby and them, and talking about the exploits of what happened on the battlefield and how they ended the war and everything. And then Reiner's giving his flashback about his experience was with Aaron and all of them, and he talks about how Sasha had eaten that potato at one time when they weren't supposed to, and how the people on the island are selfish and only care about themselves and hoard food and all this stuff. But you can tell that on his face that he deep down he has some. I don't really want to say if I want to say he has a feeling of love for them, but he has some sort of feeling of maybe admiration or respect for them, because he knows that they're just like he is. They're doing what they think is right in order to survive. And then we keep getting mentions of this time limit, like people only have so many years left of their contract or something with these Titans, and it's not made very clear. It's like, or like who's going to inherit the Beast Titan, who's inheriting Armored Titan. Is Reiner and them and Zeke, are they going to die at some point? Who inherits the Titan after they die, or is it something else? Are you only allowed to live for so long after you gain a Titan's powers? Is it like a poison or a parasite that slowly eats away at your body? So that's something I'm waiting to get a little bit more insight on, for sure. But yeah, I mean, nothing really exciting happened in this episode, unless you're really into dialogue and political conspiracy. But it did a really good job of driving home that nail that, hey, these characters are human. They might be the enemy, or at least perceived to be the enemy, but they are human, and they're doing what they believe is right. So, there is that element to it for sure, and it did do a good job of that. I will say this, I don't think that what Mappa's done so far looks remotely as good as what Studio Wit did in the first season of Attack on Titan. I'm sorry, it's just maybe better than what they did in season 3. And it doesn't look bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's still really good art. But what Studio Wit did in season 1 and season 2 is just so good. And given the time that they've had to do it, I was expecting a lot more, especially what I've seen out of Jujutsu Kaisen. I was expecting a lot more. But we'll see what happens when they get to the big enchiladas. And one thing I left out that I think is going to play a big role is when the Marlians are sitting there toying with the Eldians that were on the front lines digging ditches and they have PTSD and stuff, and then making noises, and they all fall down, and Falco runs over to help that one guy with the long hair. It shows that Falco isn't what everybody believes them to be. Falco shows that they are human beings. Like, they're nice, caring people. They're not the devils of Ymir that is responsible for the world's crimes and shit like everybody thinks they are. They honestly are truly caring people that have been turned or created into what they are perceived to be by the world around them in a sense. So I think that wasn't put in there for no reason. I think we're going to see that character again for sure. But what did you think? Was it a boring episode to you? Did you find it interesting? What do you think about this whole focusing on the human element thing? Do you think it's a good thing? Or are you kind of just like, get me back to slaying titans? Do you think they're doing a good job of humanizing the villains, so to speak? Kind of showing the other side of the argument? And what do you think Zeke's plan is? Because why would you want to go back to the island after you got your ass kicked last time and you just finished up a big war? So he's definitely plotting something, where they can use a Warhammer Titan. I mean, that would be pretty dope. But we'll see. And what do you think about the art and animation compared to what Studio Wit used to do back in the day? Do you think it's better now, or do you prefer the old school art and animation? Just throw your thoughts and opinions down, theories you got, especially with Scumbag Zeke. And how you feeling about the new characters? Very, very interested to see what you guys have to say about that. But, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll see you in the next one.